Hello, everyone. It's Marina with Startup Human. And today I have a very interesting person with us. It's Shashi. I recently met him on Zoom at one of the philosophical events where he gave us a presentation on Hinduism and more. So welcome, Shashi. And first of all, I want to ask you to introduce yourself.
Hi, Marina. Thanks for inviting me to your YouTube channel. Yeah, my name is Shashi, and I even go with SK. You know, that seems to be easier name for my Starbucks baristas. Yeah, I'm a software engineer. I actually work on metaverse. Yeah, so I mean, it's I was just telling Marina how we have been, been a culture of stimulation, beginning from ancient days, long time ago. The earliest stimulations were other people, right? Other objects. And then came radio, then came TV, then came Netflix, then came, so many things. And now there's going to be virtual reality and things of that nature that is going to pull us away from us. And it's a really interesting dichotomy for me where I'm creating the technology, but also wanting us to keep our sanity. Especially, this is a journey for myself. And, I'm hoping, I think if people realize how much we have pulled away from ourselves, they will realize what is the reality and how we can deal with so many things that are changing technology-wise, and so many turmoils that we are going through many times, they're happening. Sometimes it feels like they're happening rapidly these days. Yeah, sorry, that was a long-winded introduction.
Thank you. Definitely fascinating. Yeah. So as a Christian myself, I want to ask you, how did you get into Hinduism, and maybe by your family, and did it help you in your own personal journey?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I have dabbled into many things. I grew up as a Hindu. I was born in a Hindu family. But in my family, basically, my mom was an extremely religious person, and she followed all the rituals and all the practices to the last dot and commas. So it was a very, very orthodox Hindu family that I grew up in. My father was a bit of a non-religious person. So he was Hindu, but he has a very interesting background himself, where he almost kind of gave up on religion. So it was an interesting marriage between my mom and my dad. And so those were the kind of forces that kind of developed my character, if you will. And then my father took another bold step in my small town where I grew up in India, to have me join a convent school. So where there was a lot of Christianity that was being taught to us kids. And his primary motive was that he himself never really spoke English, but he thought that he believes that if you wanted to grow in this world, you have to learn English, and that's the way to develop. And both my parents never spoke English, and then they decided to put us in this English medium, and the only English medium schools were those the convent Catholic schools in our small towns, and they did a great job, actually. I mean, I have very respectful understanding of Jesus Christ, and I think he was an amazing man. If he was, and if he wasn't, it really doesn't matter. Historical perspective is not the point. The point is, how can you utilize what you see in your current life? I mean, that's the only thing that matters, really. So yeah, I mean, there was this Christianity that was being taught, and then there was Hinduism that was being put in my mind, and then my father's atheistic point of view at the same time. And as I came to this country, things have, life problems, a variety of things happening. So I've gotten back to going to Buddhism, a bunch of different things. And then Alan Watts and a lot of those guys who brought Hinduism. I think they have a particular style of looking at Hinduism from a Western angle. And I thought this was an interesting perspective, which my parents never taught me. And nobody in India talks this way, so respectfully about Hinduism. It's all about rituals, but not so much about how can you spiritually grow, how can you contribute better to the society, which is really at the essence of Hinduism. And that made me kind of journey my way back to Hinduism. And now I'm really looking at it more from self-growth. And that's my, that's my journey back into Hinduism, I guess.
Great. So,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of curious, first of all, for those who don't know, Hinduism is considered one of the oldest religions in the world, right? Clearly, we don't have evidence. Maybe there were other religions that didn't stay, but it's fascinating that it lasted that long, right?
Yes.
And it's the either second or third largest population on the planet that still believes in all the rituals and the idea explaining the origin of the world. And actually, I want to ask you: do you think that essentially all religions come from the same source?
Oh, I think they come from the same source, not from a physical location or a time point. I think they come from same source of understanding what is me, who am I? And I think that is where, who am I? How do I deal with other people? How can I have this society a little bit balanced? And I think it comes from that place. I think the intention behind any religion is similar, where we want peace in general everywhere. And I think from that perspective, I think religion does a good job. But what happens is, I think religion also introduces certain rituals. And sometimes people who are relating or trying to popularize a certain religion or trying to, control the masses, what happens is, I think they sort of make this into life or death situation for people, especially back in the ancient days. They would force people to do certain things. They would radicalize people too. And it then becomes about my religion versus your religion, not about a personal journey or how can I treat other human being or a person of other religion for that matter. Because I think as we got further from what religion's essence was, we just kind of became we went against each other, I think. And we also lost the idea of what is the purpose of all these different rituals in a given religion. Is the transcendence, so instead we kind of, there's this saying where, not a saying, but more of if a master is showing you hey, look, there's the moon. Rather than looking at the moon, we start holding his finger. And we think finger is the thing, not the moon, and we think that this person is the thing. And then we put the person on the pedestal. While the master is trying to show you something that is not him, it's something else. And so we kind of not understand the message, but we take the messenger and put him on the pedestal. And that has become one of the flaws in religion, I think.
Yeah, well said. So now I can't wait. Let's get to the human experience interpretation in Hinduism, right?
Okay. So Hinduism, the way first of all, Hinduism is not something what an Indian would call their religion. At least this is my understanding. Hinduism was a label that was given by others who did not know what this culture was. The actual name for this whole phenomena, or that Western folks call Hinduism, is called as Sanatana. Sanatana means eternal, and dharma. You might have heard that term. It's sometimes it's used very commonly. Order of everything, eternal order of everything. That's really what this is the true. That's how it started. Sanatan Dharma. That's the name of the religion. It started way close to Pakistan, Afghanistan border out there. And there was Persia on the east of that, west of that. And the valley that, these people, they kind of made their beginnings was the Indus Valley up north in the Indian Peninsula. So the Persians basically started calling them Sindhus, or something, those guys, and it kind of, Persian culture was very rich back then, very big, and they kind of made that name commonly available. But this culture slowly started flourishing in the Indus Valley, and then people started adopting that further down. So that's really how Hinduism started. So Hinduism really, so there are things there which are, the fundamental books for Hinduism are what we call as Vedas. So there are 4 big Vedas. Those are huge texts. Many times those texts are not easily available for people, not available in the sense that you cannot get them. It's the understanding of them, because they're written in a very old language called as, which is even older than Sanskrit. So it was a different kind of Sanskrit. Sanskrit was the language that a lot of our literature was written. So Vedas has tremendous amount of hey, you shall do this. This is how you're going to behave in the society. This is what you need to do, blah, 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 right? I mean, all of that. And then the Vedas basically, at different points in the book, there are some philosophical, deeper understandings that were buried, and only the priests would understand that. But those were later on collected, and that is what we call as Vedanta. So Vedanta is kind of like, these are the Vedas, and here is the final thing. This is the essence of all of this. Mm-hmm. And so Vedanta basically includes 3 important books there, or collection of books. One is a series of smaller books, 108 or so is what they say. Those are called as Upanishads. Upanishads are smaller, it is literally said that Upanishads is something that is revealed to you. So it's not somebody's invention. So that's how they present it. So these are short, they're not parables. They're more of a philosophical inquiry into consciousness, like, who are these sentient beings? What is this? Who am I? And who are you? And it basically tries to convey a oneness amongst all of us. And that, but if you did not read Upanishad, and if you just stuck with Vedas, you would not get that right away, because religion, most of the time, there's a ton of rituals, and people get lost in those rituals. rather than doing a philosophical inquiry. And that's what Upanishad does.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is another book called as Bhagavad-Gita. So if you ever asked anybody, what is the Bible for Hinduism? They would say it's Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita basically is part of another historical, like a Odyssey, the Greek book. We have our own mythical story or an epic. We in fact call it as our history, so it is Mahabharata. So on one of the battlegrounds, there's this minor incident that happens, and a common man reveals himself as God, and he's a charioteer for a prince, and the prince has lost his ability to fight, or he wants to kind of run away from that thing, and the charioteer explains to him some life's truths, and those truths are so revealing to anybody, any person. It talks about duties and things that we have to how do we address little things in life, and it's just amazing. I mean, Bhagavad Gita is just outstanding. So that is also part of that final Vedanta. And then there is the third one called as Brahma-Sutra. So Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma-Sutra, these compendium kind of are the philosophical backing for the thinking process. Now, a regular Hindu will not be closer to these things, unfortunately, and they spend a lot of time on rituals. And what I have done in my later part of this part of my life is I'm trying to focus on these three things, the so-called Vedanta. So that's Hinduism. Again, sorry, maybe it was a long-winded answer.
No, that's great. That's a great introduction for those who don't know much about it. But would you maybe give us more insight into human experience from your point of view, what you learned,
right?
In terms of like the why we get into this world and kind of suffer, right? And what's after that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that this is great question. And what I'm going to do at this point is there are two different things that I'm going to talk about. And I would like to present a slide here, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to share my screen. I guess, no, I want to do basic. I'll just do the whole screen. Share and slideshow. Okay. So like I said, Sanatana Dharma is basically uncovering the eternal self. So, generally, what we have is we feel like, this is me. This is a human being, the lower self, thou. Thou is me, you, all these human beings, right? And we are layered. There are lots of layers on top of us, be it our mind, body, then our family, our house, our belongings, our friends, our city where we live in, the country, right? So that our jobs, right? So all of that kind of, if we ever asked somebody, or if we just sat and said, who am I? You will say, well, I'm a software engineer. Right? Like you asked me, what do you do? The immediate response for all of us is to talk about our jobs, right? And that somehow the job defines me. Well, that's not how it should be, right? I'm just Shashi. I'm just another human being, right? So that is self. And now what happens is, if somebody is religious, or even if somebody is not religious, right? There is some sort of unknowns. That is what I show on the left-hand side, right? There is something that we do not know, like, why certain things happen. Things are out of my control. Or If a religious person, oh, there's God, and I am just this small little thing, and that is somebody out there. And we start putting layers on that, like we either think that that thing is really omnipotent, very powerful, and he or she, and he has this long white beard, or whatever. So there's all these different layers that we put on that thing, and he lives up in the sky. He lives forever, blah blah blah, right? There's all these things that we put a notion or idea of something that is unknown from us, right? And I am this little self, a little helpless being, if you will, right? And I need to earn money. I need to protect myself. I need to do this, right? So I need to protect myself. So what Sanatana Dharma, what it tries to do is, it is trying for you to find your own self and the God within you. And the real simple three-lettered, three-worded explanation of what Hinduism really boils down to, after you get rid of all the rituals and everything, is this thing: that thou art, that you are, that is you, the God is you, and everybody is that, right? So if I look at myself, the experience that I'm having about this so-called I is really, if you think about it, the experience of I that I'm having is the only true experience, if you think about it. Like right now I'm speaking to Marina. Marina could just be another video for all the matter, right? I mean, she only exists as a picture, if you will, right? For Marina, I could be the same, just a video, that's the virtual reality that we are developing actually today, right? We are going to get there where images would be talking to you. The point is that Marina understands me because of her ears and eyes, and these images are going into her mind, and the mind is forming certain thoughts and certain conception of what she's hearing. So she's understanding these words, and she's understanding my picture, and she's interpreting that. And you guys are going to do the same when you look at the video. And I'm doing the same, Marina, I think Marina is a sentient being, and she's listening to me, is what the sense I get. But all of this is a sense. The only thing that is real is this experience. If you close your eyes, you can never deny that. There's nothing false about that, right? When you say I, that is it. I mean, that is the ultimate truth. All right. So the fact that we can 100% say that this is me, that same experience you are having. And because of my consciousness, because that I am sentient, or I can interpret what you're saying, whatever you are has certain meaning for me. For example, Marina has that background, there's a flower there. And that flower, it evokes certain pleasantness, in my understanding of what, or the beach there, the blue water back there, right? So we interpret that it immediately evokes a certain pleasantness, and we kind of feel nice about it. But all of that is an image, right? So our eye interprets that, and my tone, my voice, your ears are interpreting that, and then they are making certain sense of it, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is, our consciousness is all that is the truth, the real truth. Everything else is fleeting. So everything else is fleeting means, what you were as, let's say, 5-year-old, you don't remember that. That 5-year-old was this tiny body. Now you're whatever, 30, 40 years old, and you have a different body. So Heraclitus said that, right? It's as if we are a river flowing. We are not a constant thing. So everything is changing every moment of time. Our cells are falling off, new cells are being born, and we are changing constantly. Our features are changing. So that is the physical appearance, right? So every second we are a new human being. And what we think of new human being is we think of birth and death, as if it starts there and it ends here. There is a continuity. There is a notion of time. But what Vedanta tries you to think about it is truly think about it from the perspective of this moment, right? Here I am. What happened yesterday? What happened a minute ago? Don't let it impact you. Things are changing. Did you have a question?
I have a question. So does it mean that from what I heard, our consciousness comes from our awareness in the moment? But it seems that for many people, consciousness is what happened in the past.
No, consciousness, when I say consciousness, it is okay, so I'm just going to throw something out there. I'm going to say, just for no reason, let's just think of an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately you can think, right? You can actually think of an elephant. Maybe he's wandering, he's in a zoo, right? And what is happening? It's a thought that just I was able to evoke a bubble in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually imagine the elephant. Who is this thing that imagines that? And who is this thing that is aware of that thought? You see what I mean? So something within us, there is this thing called as consciousness that is aware of this object that I planted in your mind, which is the elephant, right? That is the consciousness that I'm talking about. Now that thought is not conscious of you, right? So it's the same way, like that picture that I see in your background, and the flower. I can see the flower. See, I experience the flower.
Mm-hmm.
I experience that elephant in my thought. So the flower is a physical thing that is going through my eye, going to my mind, and I can interpret that as a flower. But what did I do? I didn't even see an elephant, but I was able to evoke an elephant in my mind, and I can see that elephant in my mind. So think of it as four things, right? There's an object. There is the sensory organs like eyes and ears and things like that. There's the mind. Mm-hmm. And then there is something that interprets all of this, or not interprets, but it's almost like it is shining a light on it. It shines the light on the thoughts in the minds. Mind shines the light onto the senses, like touch and eyes and ears. And because we have eyes and ears, these objects make any sense. If we didn't have eyes or ears, these objects might as well not exist, right? So consciousness basically means what the thing that we use to understand the world. We experience anything because of consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. And that is my definition of consciousness. And that is happening moment to moment, right? From our birth all the way to death, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's where comes Maya.
Well, okay. Well,
illusion and how to get rid of illusions, because sometimes our mind plays games with us. And
yeah. So yes, right. So let me, before we jump into that, I'm going to pop up another slide here. Let's look at this one. This is a better slide. So we will talk about Maya right as I talk about this one. Mm-hmm. So let me share my screen. So again, a lot of this is about I. The whole religion is about I. And you might think it is a very selfish religion. It is about inquiry of self, and it wants us to inquire into each of us, to inquire within us. So one really beautiful line one of our saints, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, says is, when you look at a lake, sometimes it's very murky. And it kind of, from far away, it might look like blue, or it might look like black, green, whatever. But as you get closer, as you get closer, and you put your hand in the water, and you lift the water out, and you look at the water, it's clear. It's not blue, it's not black, it's not green. It's the clear water. So there is and that's the essence of everything, right? I mean, even in science today, things are breaking down. And if you look at, we are made of atoms and molecules. And what is happening? All these atoms and molecules and everything within us, they're finding nothing but emptiness there. So that is just the, the point here is, if we all look within ourselves, we are going to find the same thing. So that is but yet what happens is, we are I and you. There's a lot of I and yous happening on the planet, which is the cause for a lot of trauma. And this I and you that happens is because of what you brought up, is the illusion. That's the Maya. So let's talk about that. And all right, so I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, so what is, let me put this up here. All right, so we all know what I is. I am Shashi, you are Marina, and the audience is audience. We all are separate. And what happens? We're born at some point, and we know for sure that we're gonna die, right? These are the two fundamental truths that we can not ever deny, right? Everything else is, if you think about it, it could be all fake. The reality that, you can never question is me and the death. Now, what happens along the way? I get a role. I'm a software engineer. I have a name, Shashi. I'm a Hindu. I have a form, and I see so many forms out there. I am looking at Marina. I'm looking at a laptop, like there's names and forms. And suddenly that feels something outside of me, others. And then I also want to call the unknown as God. And what happens? Some things we like, some things we don't like. We are afraid of certain things. We are suspicious of other things. We blame people, right? That, hey, that this happened because of you. We have desires, we want ice cream, or we want a ton of money, or we want a big house, right? So all of these things start taking control of I, and somehow we feel like we are lacking. And then we have these thoughts, right? I mean, there are objects outside this world with names and forms, but what Vedanta wants us to think is, even the thoughts are objects. So even our little thoughts that pop up in our mind, those are objects. So what this means is that, like I said, I is the sole reality, the truth, I, consciousness. Everything else that is floating around you has name and form, and it comes and goes if you think about it, right? Happiness, you're happy because of some XYZ reason. That happiness is fleeting. It is going to go away. Pleasure goes away. Sufferings go away. COVID, for example. Yes, it is going to go away one way or the other, right? It is not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Objects do not last forever. So that is what Vedanta wants you to think about. Everything outside, right? The only thing that is infinity and kind of stays real truth is I, the consciousness. So the other things that play a role in our lives is the skills, jobs, possessions, even arts and sciences, believe it or not, that is also fleeting. It is going to come. We think that science is the ultimate truth. Yes, for the physical world, yes. But even that is sort of fleeting, right? We know a certain thing, but then we change what we know every day, right? There is pleasure, greed, anger, right? That is one of the biggest problems. I suffer from that myself. And then what happens is we see that something is lacking, right? So that is the illusory nature that we think is the reality. That is somehow it is being projected to us, and we think that that is what is the reality. And we start now working towards achieving it or running away from it, right? Two things that we start doing. And those are the actions, or the other word for that is karma. If you've heard of that terminology, right? What do actions do? Actions always have consequences. Action has a reaction. Karma leads to more karma. And you do something where you hurt somebody, that is going to come back to you in other ways. So again, everybody, when they act like this, where I is a separate thing from the other, everybody is performing actions, and sometimes these actions collide against each other, and that is what causes so much turmoil. And we all live with impulsiveness. We don't see. We lack the ability, and we are losing a lot of our ability to put ourselves in other shoes. And we go and do something because we think that we are in the right, and so is everybody else, right? Everybody from their perspective is right, even the evil people, so-called. We call people evil. That's the other thing, right? In Vedanta, there is no such thing as evil, period. It is just an ignorance, is what they say. It is ignorance of the people that makes them behave in a certain way. And we are dealing with dilemmas. That is a bigger problem, right? Like, for example, like Hitler or something. But even in the littlest thing, like, hey, do I want to move? Like, I have these 2 job opportunities or whatever, right? So there is this constant dilemma that we are dealing with. And one has a lot of pay, the other one has good opportunities but less pay. What is the right thing for me to do, right? There's always this constant thing. And then we either choose it for money, and we cannot see the larger picture, and which is what was happening on the battlefield of that Bhagavad-Gita that I was talking to you about. So this is where what Vedanta wants you to think about is it introduces this terminology called as Maya, illusion. And once you understand the nature of Maya from the Vedanta's perspective, you can see all of this bubble that I have drawn here. There is a way for you to look at it as a witness. It's happening and it's going to go away. And then you will have a much clearer understanding of how to deal with a life situation. Not that you're going to treat everything as false and you are the God. That's not the point. The point is, once you understand that you are God and so is Marina and so is everybody else, God is sort of manifesting through us. Once we realize that, goodness will automatically follow. It's not the other way around where, hey, honesty is the best policy. No, that's stupid, right? So the idea is, if you are godlike, you would not be dishonest, you would not be lying, or you would not be angry, right? And that is what Vedanta wants you to look within yourself. And it is trying to, for all of us to kind of look into ourselves, right? So one of the things that I feel that we are, what happens to us is, there is this I, and then there is this others. So we have this ego that we want to protect, and we are afraid of others, or we are attracted towards others, right? So there is this other that we we feel that is different from me, right? That is in nutshell our human experience. And what does it do? Humans suffer from ego, right? Because they think that this is my limited me. I need these millions of dollars, and that is what is going to protect me. I need this big house. I need this 5 cars or whatever, right? So that is the left bubble there. The right bubble is, hey, if you've ever noticed, like if a friend is in distress or something, and that is their problem, but they are coming and sharing with you, you can actually look at that problem from outside of the problem. And then you can tell the friend, hey, look, maybe, you might want to approach it like this. And you might end up helping that person to go in the right direction. So humans are good at giving advice to others. They are also good at judging, right? So these are the two very, very basic properties of a human being. So an important quote that I like to present is Oscar Wilde. He's one of my favorite authors. He says, and he's very funny, so he says, I always pass on good advice. It is the only thing to do with it. It is never of any use to oneself. So he is kind of capturing this in a nutshell in that simple line, right? This is the experience of I, where I don't like to use the advice on myself. I would rather give it to others, right? So the fact that we know that there are these two experiences, let's look at what the cycle of karma or the cycle of life does to this, or what Maya does to us, right? We are living this life. We see something is lacking within us that causes us to desire. And that desire can be something, it can be attraction towards something or repelling, right? You're trying to go away from something. And that wants us to do this action. This is the karma. And what happens out of that is you either get that pleasure or you get some suffering out of that. Both of these are fleeting. They won't last for too long. They go away. What happens then? You realize, oh, I'm lacking something else. More desire, more action. Again, you get there. So this cycle goes on forever. So, like I said, human experience has ego and judging. These are the two. This is just my interpretation again, right? So based on those two things, what can we do, right? So, but before I go that, I'm going to take a pause here. So this is something, if you want, I can continue.
Yes, let's go, because I think it's very important for people. I mean, it's hard when you see others having so much and you think that, oh, I deserve it too. It's first of all, it's hard not to want, but then not to maybe have some negative emotions that you don't have that, and why it's kind of unfairness. So how do we kind of get to the next level, like on this ladder?
Correct. So great. Good. So so I answered your question about Maya, I hope. And now let's talk about what can we do with these two fundamental things or properties of a human experience. Everybody is struggling with this. Not struggling. I wouldn't say struggling. I'm going to present this as a good qualities. Okay. I know that is non-intuitive, but how can we utilize? Look, we have this. Let's make lemonade out of this, okay? How can we utilize this? So, what Hinduism does, or Sanatan Dharma does, is it wants you to look at this ego and actions positively, okay? So, what can you do? Let's say you are a God person, right? You do believe in God, right? That's a great thing. That's an amazing thing if you can, right? If you have devotion, if you have a deity that you like, be it church, be it whatever, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, doesn't matter. The idea there is understand the purpose of God. The purpose of God is for you to understand that you are smaller. Your ego is nothing, right? So you understand that God is larger, you are smaller. And during that process, that the devotion, the goal there is you are trying to work on your concentration, right? So what you're saying is all of things that I am doing is for this God, right? I see God in everything, and my activities are all towards this deity. Doesn't matter who it is. I don't care if you're Hindu or not, it doesn't matter. Pick your God, and any action you do, any interaction that you do out on the transaction you do in the world, treat it as if you are interacting with your God. The moment you do that, you will realize there is a change in your attitude. There's a change in how you understand this other person. The way you would judge that other person will change dramatically, right? It will become your ego itself, and your judging capability now will result into something positive. Now, let's say you're not a God person, right? You don't believe in God, and you believe in earning money and making millions of dollars, right? Great, awesome, right? And most of us fall into this category where we are professionals, we are working, right? And what are we doing at the job? Many times it is about ego boosting, right? We want to get that promotion, we want to get that higher salary, and we want to there is a lot of jealousy in the teamwork, the so-called teamwork, and there is all those things happening, right? Now, what you can do there is, let's say you don't believe in any God, which is fine, and but you do go out on this planet and you work. What you want to do is you want to have this attitude outside there where, hey, how can I help you? Even though you might be the CEO of the company, a manager, or a janitor, it doesn't matter. Being a janitor, it is easier if you think about it, right? You are much lower on the ladder, and humility is just your nature at that point. Humility is harder as you grow up in your company, as you become big boss or managers and stuff like that. And this is where, if you understand the point of this, treat the other human being, even though that person is your follower or a part of your team, or he might be a low-level worker. Try to be as a helper for him, humble yourself. That is not going to change your title anyway, right? You're CEO, you're always going to be a CEO, but come across as if you're helping the janitor, right? And that will automatically take care of that ego, and you are automatically judging the other person in a very kinder light. It is, again, I said, like, if you are poor and if you are at a much lower level, it is much easier for you to be like this. It is the other people who are above, who are doing better. They need this, right? Because it is easy to lose yourself and hurt other people when you are more powerful. And that is when this is going to come in very handy. Again, none of this is saying you should not be earning millions of dollars. None of this is saying you should not be buying that yacht or buildings or houses. Go do that. Absolutely. But be humble, be always have this attitude. How can I help you? That is the attitude, not that, hey, I'm the boss, you listen to me. Get away from that. Don't do that ever, because people here are wanting to be productive, and they want to feel like they are contributing in some positive way. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to go back home in the night and sleep and feel like they have done something good. And by bosses who try to talk down to people, it doesn't achieve anything, and it leaves this person angry, and maybe he's getting angry to his family members, right? So there's this lot of turmoil that it causes. So, I want to stress on this, because we all are professionals, and we are probably not as God believers these days. So one thing we can do is we can humble ourselves whenever we are out interacting with people. Do that 100% of the time. You're working with your kid, no need to yell at him. Try to see how you can be available. Try to put yourself in that kid's shoe. In every interaction, be it with your wife, be it with your father, mother, whoever. So you've done this. These two are important, two dichotomies. One is a God believer, another is not a God believer, materialistic. But now, you have done all this and you are feeling better, but you want to do a little more, right? You want to transcend yourself. Now you're trying to understand, who is this me? You've done enough of this, working for others. You've done duties out in the society and you're very devotional to God, maybe, right? But at some point you do want to climb that ladder and understand, who is this me, right? And this is where yoga comes, right? Yoga you see out there today being taught more as contortions, body contortions and all of that stuff, but really what it is about your physical balance, but more than physical balance, your mental balance, right? Your mind. It is somehow yoga has become about body, you want to twist your arm and legs in a certain way. Yes, that is all good. You do need a healthy body, but really it is about healthy mind. And ultimately, you want to shut down this thought of I, the thoughts that constantly creep up in your mind. Hey, I don't have that. And I have been so humble to this guy, and yet he is behaving like this. And, so you might not show the outward anger, but when you go back home, you're beating yourself. And that is not good either. That is definitely not good, because you will burst out at some point, right? That is where the idea is, how can you not let world's events impress on your mind anyway? Definitely not negatively, but let's say you win an award. Let's say you win some Nobel Prize or Oscar or whatever, this huge award. You definitely do not want to carry that on your mind, because it will lead to problems. It will lead to suffering. Leave it as be, equanimity. Just keep it. Good things happen, bad things happen. Don't let that stress your mind. Don't let that carry over into your mind. Enjoy it for that moment, move on. That's it, done. You are you. You are not the manager. You're not the CEO. You're not the father. You're not the mother. You're not something.
So are you
saying, you? Yeah.
I just have to clarify it for myself. So are you saying that yoga, in this sense, is to not get attached to anything?
Yoga is, how can I control my mind? How can I control this chatter in my mind, right? That's what yoga is.
You mean those thoughts that we get attached to, right? And kind of our ego.
Right. Eventually, yes, you get into this, I have another chart where I call these as whirlpools, right? Mm-hmm. So a thought starts in your mind and it drags you down into that thought process. It's a vicious circle. So how can you just, like, when a thought comes, you say, hey, okay, this is a thought bubble, gone, right? Mm-hmm. Don't drill down, and you're just building these mental castles around it for no reason, right? And you are attached to that idea, and then what happens is you go back to this circle of life here. Mm-hmm. Karma, action of karma.
So basically, yoga and meditation is to kind of stay grounded and not to get attached to ups and downs, right?
Right.
And also, ultimately, to kind of get into oneness with other.
Yes. So I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm trying to divide category of people here. One is God-loving person. Another is a doer on the right-hand side who wants to do something, action. That's what keeps them alive. Okay, good. But then at some point you will realize, man, even that is not satisfying. Then you come to self. So you start doing exercises, physical exercises, mental exercises, mindfulness, all of that stuff, right? So there is a purpose for that. Now, even after that, what happens is you ultimately, that's not the end goal. Shutting down the thoughts in the mind, while that is a great thing, not attaching, you will soon realize that that is also kind of futile, because thoughts are going to come. Desires are going to come. What is the way to approach this, right? So you will start, thinking about, hey, there is something more to this. There is something beyond, like, why do these thoughts come at all? How do I approach this, right? So this is that search for infinite self. And this is that oneness that you were talking about, right? So this is where you realize, oh man, I am Shashi and you are Marina, but you and I are same. If you think about it, our essence is the same. Our basic fundamental ground that you and I are existing on is consciousness. You are conscious, I'm conscious, and so is every other person on this planet, right? So when we have this larger understanding, this is that larger self, we suddenly realize, oh my God, it's me everywhere. I mean, that thought, to get to that thought, it takes some effort. You're not obviously going to get there today, but you will realize that, okay, another analogy that comes to my mind here is dream analogy, right? So when we are dreaming, we might be dreaming of, let's say me, right? I'm dreaming about my wife or my girlfriend, and I'm having a conversation in my dream. So now, though there, when we are dreaming, everything is super real, right? I mean, you are dreaming, it could be a positive dream, it could be a nightmare, whatever. You don't know that it's a dream until you wake up. And as you're dreaming, those dreams, it is really that girlfriend that has come into your mind. Guess what? It is you. It is your idea of that girlfriend's behavior that you are projecting in your dream. Your mind is projecting that. And so you take that as a reality for that piece, that time. Now let's extrapolate that to our waking experience. Our waking experience, once we get to this place where we realize, man, I am consciousness. Marina is consciousness. Why, we could think about this as, in reality, it is like that, right? So for example, Marina is listening to me right now. There is a certain image of me within her conscience, right? So that image that she has formed is based on her understanding. So it is literally, Marina is reflecting herself into this so-called me. I might as well be unreal for her. It's kind of like watching a movie, right? You're watching a movie, the character's interpretation really depends on your mental state. So you suddenly come to this understanding, oh my God, it's just me everywhere, So how I understand Marina is really not about Marina, it's about my mental state, right? That's my point here. So that is that infinite self. The moment you start seeing that, you really start learning that you're not lacking anything. This desire or attraction towards something starts to wane away. Like, for example, your hand feels like your own hand, but you don't ever say to your hand, I love you. You don't say that. Or you don't say, oh my God, I really, really want to be with my hand. You never say that, right? Because it's you. And the same thing you can start feeling about the whole planet, the world, the millions of dollars or whatever, right? I mean, if somebody else has the millions of dollars, fine, so that's the state that you want to get to. It's really hard to get there because we are so conditioned to think in terms of this limited body. But what we can do is we can use these two things that I was talking to you about, the ego and judging. Hey, how about we start judging myself? So we can split me into, like I was telling you, right? There is the objects, the eyes, the senses, the mind, and somebody is observing, somebody is witnessing all of these thoughts that come in your mind, all the experiences that are being presented to you. Okay, that is this capital self. That capital self can now see you getting angry, see you getting attracted towards somebody, see you getting jealous of somebody, see you getting like feeling like, oh my God, I'm poor, you know, and you observe and you don't participate in that mind and you tell your mind, shut up. So you judge, you know, you love judging. Okay, start by judging yourself, your behavior. Watch yourself as you're doing it. You will suddenly create a distance from the problem, and that problem is not going to pull you into this circle of suffering. You know, that's, to me, eventually you will realize others are same as me, and that is the oneness that, you know, we want to get to. All right, so that was
nice.
a long answer.
Yeah, that's a great chart. I love it. So thank you so much. I have one last question, and you know, feel free to even, you know, summarize everything you said. But for people, or for your religion, or even people other religions, what do you think is the basically meaning of life, right? Because yes, some believe in karma, and that's why there's so, you know, difficulty sometimes that we experience in this lifetime. But what is the point of us coming into this world?
Right. That's a great question. And what Vedanta will tell you is the point of life is to understand who you are. The ultimate goal we should have is not to send rockets to Mars. While we do that, you can do that. Earn your millions of dollars, no problem. But every single moment of your life, watch yourself. Understand, why am I getting angry right now? Why am I liking this? Why am I getting attracted to this person? Right? Watch yourself and try to research yourself. That is the ultimate summary of this whole thing. And now, just to present one final thing that I want to leave with you guys is, the question was, well, what can be, like, how do I summarize this whole thing, right? Always try to see if anything is causing any impressions on your mind. Well, guess what? Everything will cause an impression on your mind. You know, it's easy for me to say, or Vedanta to say, oh yeah, you know, let that not impact your mind. Well, it does. So what you do is you go towards better influences. Let those better influences cause an impression on your mind. So one of the things that in another book, you know, I have not mentioned the other interesting books, but I'm doing these other presentation series. So one of the charts that I present is this: always live in these four things. Friendship, be with happier people. Now, what do you do with people who are suffering? Be compassionate towards them, right? Of course, don't run away from them, right? But try to gather yourself around people who are not constantly sharing their sufferings, right? And when people are suffering and they do come to you, be very compassionate, be understanding, try to help them if you can help them. Don't look down upon them, none of that, right? Be happy with other people's happiness. Don't worry about your own happiness. If somebody says, hey, look, you know, I earned $1 million today. I got this lottery. Great, celebrate with him, right? Celebrate with the person. Don't let it impress your mind. Don't let it make you jealous. Don't let it make you feel unhappy or like, look, lacking. I don't have this, right? Now, what about hatred around? What about evil that is going on the planet or anything, right? Do whatever you can to fix it if you can, right? One of the things that we end up doing is we sit in our living rooms and let the TV news impact us and we kind of get angry at TV the whole time. Well, try to take an action if you can. The other thing you can do is stay indifferent. You know, world has always been in turmoil. Ever since human beings came on this planet, there has always been turmoil. You are not going to fix anything. Okay, understand that. If you can fix, go fix it, rather than just sitting and hurting your brain, hurting your mind. But the best thing you can do is be indifferent. You know, the most important thing for you and for me is myself. Not in a selfish way. If you can keep your mind calm and equanimous, you can deal with other people in a more helpful way. If there is a problem that comes across to you, you would be able to address that problem properly, not out of fear or anger. And one of the things that they say is, you know, try to keep your mind, you know, like these thoughts come up, you do yoga, you do all of that stuff. Well, try to keep your mind occupied in physical activity, you know, do something, do whatever, go on a walk, go on something. Do not take a thought and start going down some rat hole that you are just making things up in your mind, right? Now, if you're thinking about some research problem or something really interesting, that's all good, right? That is meditation, that is concentration, that is all good. But when it is, you know, it's involving people or yourself, or look, that person behaved like this, get away from it. And the best way to get away from it is physical exercise. You know, do gardening, move your arms, move your legs. When that happens, your mind shuts down. Reduce the chatter, reduce inner turmoil, drop the past. And that's how you're going to always live in love. And that, you know, we say that, but how do you go about it is this stuff, you know, right here. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. We learned so much. And I think a lot of good tips how to get to our higher self and be at oneness with the humanity and other creatures
right
on this planet. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.